Well, fellow YouTube viewers, I'm back to share more as far as about responding to this video as far as dealing with Pastor Wright and his comments. Hitler ain't never been called the N-word. So I have been getting text responses from a specific viewer here that's been watching it and implanting text comments on here as far as about who are the true Jews and the color of Jesus Christ. Now, what I've been disputing with, starting off in Matthew 2:15, where it says, "Where he stayed until the death of Herod, and so was fulfilled what the Lord has said through the prophet, out of Egypt I called my son." Now, as you probably see on the video, under the video responses, a text comment from me where it says, well, typed and pretty much analyzed what it meant about out of Egypt. Not me saying that Jesus came from Egypt, but Jesus came from around people that had the complexion of Egyptians, and those complexion of the Egyptians was brown and light brown to dark brown, but there was not no pinkish color, no pinkish light color like a European light color, as the European images that you see mostly in this country of Jesus. You don't see that many depictions of Jesus being brown or light brown or dark brown, but you see him mostly a European Jesus, which he was not European. Now, moving on any further about Jesus, as far as that right there in particular. Now, as far as the Jew thing, as far as who are the true Jews, which, since Jesus descended from the Jews, as far as his flesh coming from the Jews, but not his spirit. In Isaiah 18:19 and 20, it talks about the fall of Africa, Egypt, Ethiopian, all those brown and dark complected people. Not just the dark and brown complected people in particular, but mainly those who disobeyed God, which were the people that was mostly brown or dark complected, the Egyptians, the Cushites, and the Ethiopians. Now, I'm going to read, just basically pinpoint some scriptures, not all of it, but getting right to the point. In Isaiah chapter 20, verse 3 and 4, it says, "Then the Lord said, just as my servant Isaiah has gone stripped and barefoot for 3 years as a sign and portent against Egypt and Cush." Verse 4, "So the king of Assyria will lead away stripped and barefoot the Egyptian captives and Cushite exiles, young and old, with buttocks bared to Egypt's shame." Now right there, the Assyrians are the ones, actually it was a branch. The Ethiopians, the Israelites, the Native Americans, all on was pretty much spread like cattle to the Europeans, the British, the French, Spain, all them different people. But mainly just in particular talking to Israelites and Egyptians and the Cushonites. I said Cushonites, the Cushites. So point out as far as them being brown complected, which the link to that, as far as them being brown complected, as far as the Egyptians and the Cushites, and also this scripture right here in Isaiah chapter 19 verse 24. It says, "In that day Israel will be the third along with Egypt and Assyria, a blessing on the earth." Israel will be the third along with Egypt and Assyria, which the mixture right there, the Assyrians, the Egyptians, and Israel. And also going even further, they say 25, "The Lord Almighty will bless them, saying, Blessed Egypt, my people, Assyria, my handiwork, and Israel, my inheritance." Now let's go to Isaiah 47 real quickly on Israel, his inheritance. As far as this is where the punishment, where the Israelites, the Egyptians, the Cushites disobeyed God and trying to live out their own ways, their own worldly mentalities. And this right here in Isaiah chapter 47 talks about America being a virgin daughter of Babylon in verse 1, when she only had the 13 colonies, and when the slaves, when a mixture of the Israelites the Egyptians, the Cushites, and Native Americans came on slave boats. It just weren't one particular group of people, but there was different tribes of people. The Jews, the Israelites, and all the ones I just named coming on slave boats, but not just one group of people in particular. In Isaiah 47:6 it says, I was angry with my people and desecrated my inheritance. I gave them into your hand and you showed them no mercy. Even on the aged you laid a very heavy yoke. Now, let's go back to Isaiah chapter 20. Verse 4, so the king of Syria will lead away stripped and barefoot, the Egyptian captives and Cushite exiles, young and old, bear talks, bear to Egypt's shame. And as I read about the aged over in Isaiah chapter 45, about them being led and being stripped, but kind of got some interference with my phone ringing. But in Isaiah chapter, also as a reminder here in Isaiah chapter 19, verse 25, the Lord Almighty will bless them, saying, blessed be Egypt, my people, Assyria, my handiwork, and Israel, my inheritance. Going back over to Isaiah 47, who did he say was his inheritance? Was Israel. Isaiah 47:6, I was angry with my people and desecrated my inheritance. And he desecrated his inheritance when he said, I gave them into your hand and you showed them no mercy. Even on the age you laid a very heavy yoke. So the Israelites given into the hand of the enemy. Given into the hand of the enemy, where they became enslaved over here by the Europeans, by the Syrians, and much more. So saying this to say, in Revelation chapter 2, I believe, verse 9, when it said they claim that are Jews, they are not. Revelation 2:9. It said, I know your afflictions and your poverty, yet you are rich. I know the stand of those who say they are Jews and they are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. So the ones over there now that claim to be a Jews are actually the Assyrians, which I just read and gave you scripture confirmation that the Assyrians are the ones that came over and invaded the Egyptians, the Cushites, and the Europeans as well, but mostly the Assyrians are the ones that's over there in Israel when they came and invaded Israel, taking over. So the Assyrians are the ones portraying as they are the Jews, but actually the true Jews are the ones that's a brown complected and light complected, but within a brown origin of the brown race. But last but not least, I'm trying to move as briefly as possible here. The last thing, if you notice up in rap music and all that, amongst a lot of black people, you hear the term ghetto being used a lot. As far as black saying, you know, I'm ghetto, or I came from the ghetto, Tupac, I one of heaven got a ghetto. You hear ghetto a whole lot within the black race, but not in any other race in particular, but mainly the black race. And I did some research and looked up the definition of ghetto, and here's another hint and clue to prove that the Israelites were black, to prove that the original Jews were black. And there's also a scripture up in Amos that I didn't quite pull up in this segment here, but since it's so much to share, I'm trying to put it in a bundle and put it all in one blow. But here's the three definitions. A section of a city occupied by a minority group who live there, especially because of social, economic, or legal pressure. Number two, an often walled quarter in a European city to which Jews were restricted beginning in the Middle Ages. And number three, something that resembles the restriction of isolation of a city. Now, definition number one, it said a minority group who live in a particular area because of social, economic, or legal pressure. And that's what's been going on in America, particularly with the black race, been pushed aside over in a corner, and while the whites have their portion and the blacks have their portion. And this is what really proves that the original Jews are the black race. It's an often walled quarter in a European city to which Jews were restricted beginning in the Middle Ages. America is basically a European city because when the Roman Empire fell down, the Romans became Europeans. The Europeans came over and shifted over to America, establishing their civilization on American soil. The Israelites or the Jews came over here as well, and the setup is all over again as far as the Jews being a minority and the Romans being the the seniority, the more superior. So this right here is the segment about proving that the Jews, original Jews, are black, and breaking it down and giving you scripture confirmation of the truth. So peace be unto you, and Christ for life.